Popular U.S. brands feeling the wrath of Russia. In today's cover story, a heartwarming report on America's Little League champions and how a baseball revival could be winding up. Plus, GM crosses over the border to save jobs in Tennessee, and the Hollywood star who could be closing in on a $1 billion IPO. First Business starts now.
You're watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, I'm Angela Miles. It's Thursday, August 28th. In today's first look, the S&P 500 holds on to 2,000. The index closed Wednesday at 2,000.12. Other than that, as you can see on your screen, it was a relatively lackluster trading day. Many Wall Streeters are heading to the Hamptons for vacation. The FBI is investigating a hack attack on JP Morgan Chase and possibly one other bank. A report by Bloomberg News says it's possible there's a connection with a Russian hacking group, but there's no confirmation. And the SEC approves new rules forcing financial firms to be more transparent with credit records when selling securities backed by loans. I can't think of a better way to start a Thursday morning than with trader Todd Horwitz of Average Joe Options. What's up?
What's up? Good morning, Angie.
So I'm dying to hear, what are you noticing most about trading this market?
Well, I mean, right now we continue to obviously go higher. I mean, it's going to be a slow week. We know today is going to be slow and tomorrow will be ultra slow, but we're still pushing higher. I mean, there's really, as bearish as I am, and I think we have a big correction coming. You know, there's no reason really to get in the way here, especially in slow, dull markets, because we know in dull markets two things happen. Pension funds and IRAs are always investing to the long side, so I would not be surprised to see this market creep a little bit higher the next couple of days, and then we'll see after Labor Day what it really shakes out to be.
Are there stocks that you would buy here, Bob?
You know, looking at the markets, I've been looking at Cheniere Energy. I think that looks okay. A little bit pricey, up at a 52-week high, but it continues to perform. You know, I think I'd look for probably one of the underperforming financial stocks, you know, maybe a JP Morgan. Although it's up, it's really only flat for the year. And I think that if the market's going to continue to go higher, that might be one I might look at.
What about stocks to sell or short?
Well, you know, I think when you want to look at shorting, I mean, I'm looking certainly at the Netflix space. I want to get short Netflix in the worst way. I think Amazon, once again, has really overvalued itself up here in the mid 340s. I think Tesla, although great, so far looks like a great company, I think 265 is a great level, and I'd like to give them some of that there.
Thank you for all that information.
Thank you.
Traders and European officials are becoming anxious about Russia's gas game plan. Reports say Russia has plans to block the supply of natural gas to the European Union this winter. Russian officials deny those reports.
At the end of the day, this is a problem. You know, Russia right now has shown that they are not a very reliable supplier. They use natural gas as a political weapon. And the Ukraine, of course, is warning Europe that it's a very real possibility that Russia will cut off supplies. Nobody put that past Russia. So I think right now, while Ukraine may be overstating the case in the short term, in the long term, I definitely think the possibility that Russia will cut off supplies to Europe is a very strong possibility this winter.
Phil Flynn, a Price Futures Group and a Fox Business News oil analyst, is among many traders watching for a bottom in oil prices, even as Russia reportedly is moving troops into a third section of Ukraine. U.S. companies are facing more challenges in Russia. Brown-Forman, the maker of Jack Daniel's whiskey, tells reporters the geopolitical environment remains fragile, particularly in Russia, where iconic American brands are experiencing increased scrutiny. Russia media reports insect poison was found in some Jack Daniel's whiskey, which the company denies. McDonald's has been cited for violating sanitation rules in Russia. The restaurant chain questions those allegations. Chuck Coppola is waiting in the wings this morning with more news. Hello, Chuck.
Good morning, Angie. A town in Virginia is shaken by the crash of a U.S. military jet made by Boeing. Officials are investigating what caused a New Orleans-bound fighter jet to crash into the mountains of western Virginia. The jet was an F-15C, similar to the model seen here. The spokesman for Barnes Air National Guard Base confirms that the service contract for the aircraft is through Boeing. We're told that the pilot lost radio contact after reporting an in-flight emergency. The Air National Guard pilot was taking the jet to receive a system upgrade. Boeing did not return our request for comment.
The leader of the International Monetary Fund is under fire. French prosecutors have placed Christine Lagarde under formal investigation. Prosecutors are looking into business affairs, including an alleged abuse of power involving a multi-million-dollar payout in 2008 to a French tycoon. Lagarde maintains her innocence, contending after 3 years of probing, investigators have yet to find her guilty. Lagarde says in a statement she's being investigated for simple negligence.
Chiquita brand says that it's committed to a merger to create the world's largest banana company. Chiquita and Irish fruit company Fifes say that the merger could save a total of $60 million annually, topping a previous estimate of $40 million. Chiquita Brands rejected a bid from a Brazilian juice company earlier this month. Chiquita and Fifes say that they are working to close the merger deal as quickly as possible.
General Motors is moving production of its next generation Caddy from Mexico to Tennessee. The crossover Cadillac is one of the fastest growing segments for the car company. The GM facility in Spring Hill already employs 2,300 workers. A GM statement says the SRX Cadillac and a second midsize vehicle would create or retain roughly 1,800 jobs. The union calls it an example of how union workers and company management can work together.
A creepy problem is emerging at Suzuki. Spiders are forcing the car company to recall more than 19,000 Kizashi cars produced between 2010 and 2013. It's because spider webs can clog the fuel vapor vent hose, cutting off the airflow, causing gas tank cracks, fuel leaks, or even fires. There are no reports of injuries, though, or spider bites.
Turning to corporate earnings, Tiffany posted numbers that sparkled. The high-end retailer sales came in 7% better than last year. Earnings exceeded analysts' expectations. The company also raised its forecast for the full year as profit margins expand. Tiffany's growth was strongest in the U.S. and the Asia-Pacific region. Tiffany shares settled up 98 cents for the day. Express
is also soaring on eye-catching earnings. The retailer popped 12% in trading yesterday after its results beat Wall Street's estimates. It's despite a sales drop of 59%. It says reducing costs will help the chain save $15 million this year. Express is now raising its earnings outlook for the year.
Alibaba is stirring up excitement with its latest round of earnings. The Chinese e-commerce company is getting set to launch its IPO in the U.S. next month. And Alibaba just posted a surge in revenue and earnings. Of utmost importance, Alibaba proved to Wall Street that its mobile base is growing as merchandise sales improve. The company could set records with its initial public offering by raising an estimated $29 billion.
In Europe, a budget airline is hoping to appeal to more business travelers. Ryanair, Europe's biggest low-cost airline, is now selling business class tickets. It's part of an overhaul by Ryanair to move away from its image as a budget airline and get more corporate travelers who tend to pay more for last-minute flights. Intel is in for a $2 billion tax break. The tech giant is expanding in Washington County, just west of Portland, Oregon. Local officials have approved a tax break that could be worth a couple billion. The chip maker is the largest private employer in the state. The break on paying taxes is due to a law designed to attract high-tech companies. The city council vote was unanimous. In today's cover story, the best baseball team in Chicago comes from Washington Heights on the city's south side. The Jackie Robinson West All-Stars, who became U.S. champions in the recent Little League World Series. A parade of double-deck buses and trolleys carried America's latest and youngest baseball champions, 13 Little Leaguers from Washington Heights, their league named in honor of Jackie Robinson, who broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball 67 years ago.
Thank you, Chicago, for making it possible that their parents could be there in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Thank you for embracing these boys who showed us what we have in common.
The team was embraced by a city often known more for its violence among youth than their success in sportsmanship.
I had someone pass me by the other day, and they said, "Those boys are so well behaved." I said, yeah, we teach that. We teach that. The other stuff you see reported, the perception of what's happening in Chicago, that ain't us.
This has just reignited that whole, sense of community and family, and it's giving everybody in the neighborhood just the greatest feeling of pride. And I mean, we love these kids, you know, so it's revitalized the whole community over there at the JRW Park.
Let's hear for number 7, Lawrence Noble.
Each player heard their name and took a bow. A summer that has seen racial strife boil over elsewhere, it was a moment savored by anyone who's given their time to support youth activity.
I think this is a really great time for people to see what can happen when adults and the whole city get behind youth.
With all the violence and all the negative stories that have been coming out of the city lately, it's really wonderful for the city to rally behind these little boys who have just been such a great inspiration and did amazing. Like, I watched them come back from behind in some of these games, and it's great. It's wonderful. It's just something to be commended.
Also, Chicago White Sox Executive Vice President Kenny Williams vowed to work for more funding for youth activities.
Just a great story. Thank you, Chuck. On the economic calendar for today, it's initial and continuing unemployment claims, GDP, pending home sales, and natural gas inventories. On the earnings calendar, Abercrombie & Fitch, Coty, and Dollar General. Still to come, the famous TV reality star hoping profits will be a cakewalk. Plus, how Hollywood fame can translate into fortune beyond the box office. And after the break, will slow and steady win the race for American companies? We'll be right back. A cupcake comeback is in the works. A federal bankruptcy court will allow Fisher Enterprises and reality TV star Marcus Lemonis of The Prophet to buy the Crumbs cupcake chain. Business crumbled earlier this year at stores, forcing operations to come to a halt in July. The investment group plans to reopen Crumbs, adding ice cream and popcorn to the menu. Bill Mahler has more delicious details from the small business sector this morning.
America's small businesses, collectively, they are our largest employer. They make our economy go. So how are things going for America's small businesses? Well, a pretty good snapshot assessment is made each month by the online payroll processor, Sure Payroll. They come out with their small business scorecard. It's just out for August. Let's take a look at the numbers with Andy Rowe. He's the general manager for Sure Payroll. And why don't we start with the good news? It is not a trend, Andy, but...
Well, hiring is up. It's actually up 0.1%, and it's actually the first time it's been up since August of 2013.
Okay, so 0.1% by itself doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that it's up at all is significant.
Absolutely. It really shows to the optimism out there from those micro businesses, the businesses with 1 and 10 employees, the fact that they're really easing up and they're starting to invest out there in the labor pool.
Micro businesses, as you say, 1 to 10 employees, how big of a chunk of the overall small business pie do they make up?
It's actually the majority of the small businesses out there in the economy, and it's actually the largest driver of the economy out there.
Now, you talked about optimism. What are the numbers behind that?
We actually survey a clientele of our clients, and 70% are actually saying they're optimistic about this year, largely due to the profitability. Either they're profitable this year or they forecast profitability for the remainder of the calendar year.
All right, 70 is good. Now, it reminds me, it was in the 50s a few years ago.
Yeah, back in 2010, it was actually only at 54%.
How about average paycheck? Is that up, down, flat? Where's that going?
It's actually down, and that's because with the increase in hiring, they're able to manage that labor cost a little tighter and actually control the overtime that's happening.
Now, a lot of people would like to see full-time employees increase because that is the real laggard in the recovery.
Absolutely, but it's a good start. It's a good start that they're actually spending money in the labor, number one, and hopefully that's going to lead to hiring full-time employees as the next step.
All right, overall, we've been looking at these numbers for a long time now. Overall, are you then optimistic as well as the small business owners are?
We're extremely excited by the data in the survey because of that optimism and really the profitability that our clients are really telling us they're going to see this calendar year.
All right, Andy Rowe with Sure Payroll. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, a trader takes a shot at retail resilience, and movie studios take a cue from Wall Street to predict profits, but our critic says the formula is flawed. That's next in Movies and Money. It's more about the money than the movies in this week's Movies and Money. Eric Chodas, our movie guy, is here to take us behind the scenes. Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning.
So let's start with what you're bringing to us today. You're going to talk about tracking, and this is where film studios actually rely on algorithms to predict how well a movie will do at the box office.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. They have not been doing very well over the last few months and weeks, actually.
so is this a good practice or a bad practice?
Well, I think it's an interesting practice for the studios to sort of have in their back pocket. They use this practice, which is pretty much, polling people to see if they're aware of a movie's existence, they know when it's coming out, is it being tweeted about on social media and whatnot, and they use that to sort of, garner, exactly how much advertising dollars they want to put into a movie. But when these numbers fail them, then they look like, idiots.
Case in point, Sin City.
Sin City, which a lot of people were sort of speculating was going to be somewhere upwards around 18, 19 million, ended up being $6.5 million at the box office. It was huge. A few weeks back, Guardians of the Galaxy, people sort of pegging around 65 million, kind of an average August blockbuster. Over 90 million. That's become the biggest movie of the summer.
So last week you were on the show and you were talking about Jessica Alba's performance in the movie, which you were not a fan of. However, some news came out that her company, The Honest Company, has been valued at just under $1 billion. Is it often that you see a celebrity be able to parlay their star power into that kind of an enterprise?
This seems to be more the case of her maybe just finding something that works behind the scenes, something that doesn't involve the sort of Hollywood. I don't know if there are a lot of enough Jessica Alba fans out there to sort of, say like, ooh, I'm going to trust Jessica Alba with my baby's diapers.
Eco-friendly diapers, exactly.
That could just like the product, and I say good for her, maybe she should stick with that and stay away from the acting.
Last weekend at the box office, as you just mentioned, Sin City not doing well at all. Look at that list. It's not even there. So Guardians of the Galaxy takes the #1 spot, followed by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, If I Stay, Let's Be Cop, and When the Game Stands Tall. They're liking that movie.
It's doing okay. We'll see if it garners any sort of small word of mouth. It's, they're not exactly very happy with that number.
Coming out this weekend, here's a list. As Above, So Below. That's a thriller, correct?
That's not screening for critics.
That's always a bad sign. And The November Man.
November Man with Pierce Brosnan. Labor Day is not, typically a very big weekend at the box office. You have a lot of people sort of taking their last vacations before the summer. Kids are back in school now, so, they're not exactly want to go to the movies. And these movies don't exactly inspire a lot of people to run out to the movies, especially if they're not being screened for critics. So I don't expect big numbers this weekend. You'll probably see Guardians of the Galaxy be #1 again.
The film studios have already released their summer blockbuster.
That's right. It's over.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
We're out. Still ahead, the options market is having a chemical reaction to a stock, featured next in Chart Talk. In Chart Talk this morning, Matt Kavanaugh, CMZ Trading, joined us with his armchair view of Williams-Sonoma. Hello to you.
Good morning.
Well, the stock sold off heavily after the close last night on earnings, falling some $8 plus. Would you be a buyer of this stock?
I did. I bought a little bit of the stock, just over $66. I don't think it's necessarily cheap, but I do think people overreacted. They guided a little bit weak going forward, but they do have some good things going on, good same-store sales, and I'm hopeful that buying the dip on this company will pay off.
And maybe that is the correct move with these retailers, to buy the dip, because it has been tough. Some of these retail names have not done well in this market, as you know.
No, they really have been punished, but the overall market is resilient, and some of these retailers continue to be resilient. So the stock's up 30% in the last year. They gave back 10, 12%, and maybe you can get lucky and the stock climbs back a little bit.
Changing gears completely now, let's take a look at Dow Chemical. The options market is suggesting that this stock is poised to move higher. Do you buy into that play?
I do. I actually think it's a great company. They're getting rid of some non-core assets. If you look at this stock relative to the rest of the market, it's not that expensive. They pay a nice dividend. And even with the stock being up 40%, I still think it's an okay place to be.
What's the risk to buying the stock?
Well, obviously the risk is that the market falls apart. But, at 13 or 14 times earnings when everything else is trading higher and they're paying you 3%, I think, it's an okay place to be. Good place to park money, good company.
Good to have you here today. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
That's it for today. Coming up tomorrow, it's Traders Unplugged. Don't miss our show as the guys fight over whether you should buy into the V-shaped rally. From all of us at First Business, thanks for watching.